Welcome to Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up on the show, planning for the housing that Canada will need in the future, and how to fix Canada's supply chain issues and attract the next generation of manufacturing here. Plus, the world's biggest tobacco company wants a future beyond the cigarette, and one that is net zero too. That's all ahead. First, though, for the week that was in business, it's time for the briefs. Another grim warning from the IMF this week that a global recession is coming and could be worse than previously thought. The UN's financial agency also said countries like Canada would do well to act prudently and resist the temptation to spend revenue windfalls from higher commodity prices. Separately, analysis from the Federal Parliamentary Budget Officer suggested the deficit could be much lower than projected in Canada. Welcome news for those hoping to see Ottawa's finances on a more prudent track. Inflation in the U.S. ran hot again in September, up 8.2%. That was a slight dip from August, but above what economists hoped to see. It all but guarantees further rate hikes by the U.S. Central Bank. Canadian uranium miner Cameco is buying a stake in nuclear giant Westinghouse for about $8 billion U.S. They're partnering with Brookfield Renewable Partners to acquire the maker of equipment for nuclear power plants, just the latest sign of a revival for nuclear amid an ongoing power crisis in Europe. In a move that could be liberating to thousands of Canadians, Canada Post will begin offering loans to its customers, ranging from as little as $1,000 to as much as $30,000. It will mean people in remote communities or those who don't have a bank account can access financial services, freeing them from relying on loan companies like payday loans, which carry high rates of interest. TD Bank is actually making the loans. No word on how the Crown Corporation chose one bank out of many to partner with. Turns out if there aren't any good movies to see, we don't go to the cinema. That's the explanation being offered by Cineplex for the drop in its revenue in September. At just 52% of its 2019 levels, it was far from the return to normal the theater operator had hoped to see. But Cineplex said weak film offerings in the month brought the anticipated decline. Well, there could be some awkward conversations at the office in the next while. As of this week, any bosses using a form of surveillance on their employees or their work have to disclose it, or at least do so in the next 30 days. Our guess is some may opt to stop doing it rather than have that chat. And those are your business briefs. Canada's housing market needs millions of new homes over the coming years just to match population growth, and even more if we want to help make the market more accessible to first-time buyers. But the construction industry has a serious labor shortage problem, estimated at around 90,000 vacant positions, and fixing it will not be easy. Sue Wastell is president of Wastell Homes. Thanks for being with us.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So this should be, of course, boom times for people who are in the business of building any kind of housing in this country, and yet we have the inability to get it done. What are you seeing on the ground? Where are the sort of the stops in the process for you?
Well, I would say that it's across the board amongst all of our trades and suppliers. It ranges from anything that we need to get manufactured to put into homes, as well as just our own general staff that we have constructing homes today. We have lots of jobs that aren't, we post and people don't even apply to take them. So it's absolutely every possible trade and supplier across the board.
So when you see, Sue, governments promising to build homes, as though governments build homes, but promising to make that happen, what's your reaction to that? How realistic it is when even the feds are in on this, where they name numbers and they name dollar figures? How can they get it done if those in the industry can't get it done?
Well, I think we're just going to have to actually change the way that we do things in order to try to get it done. Builders are very resilient. As we've seen over the last couple of years, we've been able to pivot with all of the challenges that we had through COVID. And we're already, trying to implement new ways to do things in order to modernize the way that we can construct homes today and in the future through things like panelization and modular housing. So I think you're going to start to see some shifts in the way that houses get built here in Canada.
And just because we know that the rising rate environment has an impact on the buyers and in some ways on the seller psyche as well, what are you seeing in terms of the volume of building? Do you expect to see a slowdown, or will you push right through this whole period?
We did have a lot of pent-up demand over the last 2 years, too much to our surprise. But there's just that many people wanting to move into Ontario that can't find housing. So we're still working really hard getting through all of our pre-sales and constructing those. But I would say currently in today's market, we are seeing things that have slowed down. We are hopeful that it's just sort of a temporary shift in people wanting to see what's going to happen with interest rates. And we fully expect that once those interest rates stabilize, that things will pick back up again.
Just a few seconds here, but what's the quick answer to the labor shortages? What would you like to see happen so that you can start filling the jobs you have and others need?
I think it's all coming down to education. We need to educate our youth all the way down to primary school and high schools that a job in the construction industry is a great job, and convince those parents that not every child, child's right path is a university education, and then they can find something that they love to do and are happy to go to work every day in our industry.
So good to have you, Sue. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sue Wastell is president of Wastell Homes. Coming up, the pandemic threw global supply chains into disarray. Now, a federal task force has some recommendations for fixing Canada's. Stay with us.